Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. How you all doing, gang? Big thank you for all your emails and tweets over the last few days. You've made an aging tech podcaster very happy. But today, we're going to flash back to my IT days and talk about things like bring your own device and the trends around having security in the enterprise, not to mention hybrid IT and the expanded attack surface, and what zero trust is going to mean to the enterprise in 2020. And if we've got time, we might even talk about the evolution of security, SaaS and cloud. All the kind of stuff that departments outside of IT never worry about or even care about. But to the IT guys and dolls, it's their bread and butter, as they say over here in the UK. So today's guest is the CEO of a company called PoolSecure, where he oversees all aspects of business strategy and execution. And with 25 years of experience across the cloud, mobility, networking, security and collaboration markets, Sudhakur also joined PoolSecure from Citrix, and in his previous life at Citrix, he served as the Senior Vice President and General Manager for the Enterprise and Service Provider Division, where he had profit and loss responsibility for approximately 2.5 billion portfolio of virtualization, cloud networking, mobile platforms, and cloud services solutions. Imagine that kind of pressure on your shoulders. But enough from me. Let's go on a trip all the way to the Bay Area in the US so we can speak with Sudhakur Ramakrishna, CEO of PoolSecure. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
First of all, thank you, Neil, for having me on the show. I am Sudhakur Ramakrishna, CEO at PoolSecure. I've been now with the company for a little over 4 years, and we are in what I describe as a secure access leader. And our mission is to deliver secure access solutions for people, devices, things, and services. A very short background on myself. I have a number of years of experience building global teams and businesses in various spaces and various industries, including mobility, collaboration, cloud, and security.
Excellent. Well, it's a huge pleasure to have you on the podcast today. And we will have a variety of people listening, some business leaders, some techies, people inside the tech industry and outside too. And many will be hearing phrases like secure access for the very first time. So just to bring everyone up to speed with the kind of work that you're doing, can you possibly set the scene and tell everyone a little bit more about what secure access is, and equally how PoolSecure actually addresses the market trends of workforce mobility, cloud and hyperconvergence, and all those big trends that we're all familiar with at the moment?
Definitely. I mean, those are indeed big trends and exciting trends. The best way to describe the phrase secure access is to maybe quickly define the phrase remote access. Most of us, I'm sure, at one time or another, were at home and we had a need to access corporate data, resources, and applications. So sitting on our PC or laptop at home, we found a way of getting into the corporation and were provided access. That, generally speaking, is what is known as remote access, meaning that as a user, you and I are on our laptop, possibly at our home or maybe in a hotel room. And the other side of the connection, so to speak, are resources in the corporate data center, which being applications, storage, compute, etc. So it was almost like a point-to-point type of a connection in that regard. But as you mentioned, with user mobility and multi-cloud, what's happening is that companies are deploying their infrastructure and applications in public clouds, private clouds, as well as in traditional data centers. So the notion of a single place to go is gone and continues to expand. That is at one level. On the other side, whereas previously as users, you and I were probably in our home or in a hotel, now we are on the go all the time, meaning that we have our mobile device and we want to be productive no matter where we are. So again, from the user side, the notion of remote has disappeared as well. So the way I like to describe it is we are all inherently mobile on one hand, and then corporate resources and applications are moving across various clouds and also data centers. In that world, the notion of remote is very restrictive in the sense that each one of us is always remote or nobody is remote. And therein lies the significance of secure access. So instead of looking at the world as remote or non-remote, we should be thinking about securing it no matter where you are, which has got a connotation of mobility, and no matter where the applications are. So that's how we came up with the term of secure access. And we've been actively and aggressively evolving the world from a world of remote access to a world of secure access.
And if I look back to my IT days, cybersecurity in particular has completely changed, because back then, of course, everything inside of the corporate network was deemed as safe and everything outside was treated with suspicion. But of course, there's so much excitement now around zero trust. What is it that's driving that interest, and how does that apply to secure access too?
Absolutely. So first of all, when we defined secure access, Neil, the reasoning, as I described to you, was users are always mobile and infrastructure and applications are also mobile, so to speak, meaning that they're being deployed in various places. So we looked at it as, don't look at the world as inside and outside, simply secure every interaction between a user and a resource. A resource could be storage or compute or an application. So that's the way we defined our mission, and that's the way we have been executing on it. More recently, there has been this greater consciousness, I would say, that the previous and conventional wisdom of everything inside a network is secure, and everything that is coming from outside the network is inherently insecure and must be secured. That notion is being turned upside down, largely because many significant and high-profile breaches started from within the network. It could seem very benign. I mean, we may be outside the network, our computer gets infected, we come inside the network. Because we are inside, we are trusted, but we have an infected computer and we end up infecting the entire network. So that's a simple example of why and how mobility has caused security challenges inside the network. Then the pendulum has swung full force to this notion called zero trust, meaning that you shouldn't trust anything at all, whether it's inside or outside. However, the traditional IT systems had different user experiences for people within the network versus people coming from outside the network. In the context of secure access, the way we have been able to manage it is we wanted consistency of user experience because we believe simplicity and consistency and support the needs of our zero trust customers much more quickly because of our fundamental architecture and how we looked at user experience in the context of secure access. Put it simply, secure access as we have defined it is inherently supportive of the zero trust models that customers want.
And there are a whole range of access technologies out there, and it can be seen as a very crowded market. And some companies use multiple tools that overlap in function. So what advantages does PoolSecure bring to the enterprise and those business leaders listening?
Definitely. There was a time and place, so to speak, Neil, for those types of silos that customers proliferated. Some of it had to do with organizational boundaries. For instance, I manage the storage infrastructure, therefore I build an access infrastructure to support the storage infrastructure through load balancing and through application delivery controllers if I'm managing the application farm, for instance. Similarly, if I was responsible for desktop virtualization, I then built a access solution to support that. And last but not least, if I was responsible for networking, then I built another networking access solution, so to speak. What this has done has created islands of policy. And increasingly, what's being proven is that security breaches are happening because of misconfigurations, and misconfigurations can proliferate when you have more and more islands of policies deployed in enterprises. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, I would say, is that increasingly IT budgets are actually shrinking, not increasing in these segments. And therefore, enterprises and customers are almost forced to think about how to harmonize their infrastructure, how to simplify their infrastructure, make it more manageable, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an economical dimension to it as well. And last but not least is the demand from end users to have consistent, simple, and superior experiences. Because every CIO today, when I talk to them, not just talks about security or cost, they also talk about how to improve the productivity of my enterprise, productivity of an administrator, productivity of end users, etc. So therein lies our value proposition, because what we are able to do is unify these islands or fragmented islands, provide unified policies, unified experiences, as a result, improve the customer's productivity, their security, visibility, and compliance, while addressing the economic needs of the customers. This is going to be a multi-year transition, because not only do we have to take care of the existing infrastructure, but also the evolution of our customers into the cloud. And the way we like to describe it is, we want to enable customers to move to the cloud, could it be hybrid or multi-cloud, at a pace at which their business needs dictate. That's a fundamental differentiation that we bring to the table versus other vendors who are simply asking customers to move to the cloud. That has its own set of challenges, because there are a lot of legacy applications supporting of existing user databases, etc., that have to be carefully transitioned. And we let customers evolve at the pace at which their business needs dictate, fundamentally because of how we look at secure access.
And I'm curious, you're working right in the heart of this industry, and you're going to be talking with multiple clients across multiple industries and all across the world. So what are the top concerns and needs of your customers, and the kind of insights that you're gaining from the conversations that you're having with them? And does it actually differ across industries? I mean, can you possibly share a couple of stories around that?
Definitely, Neil. This is one of the most exciting parts of my job, I would say. I get to travel all around the world, meet a number of very smart, very passionate and exciting professionals, all trying to address their access needs at one level. But broadly speaking, the way I would describe it is, customers are focused on, as I mentioned earlier, how do I improve the overall productivity of my organization? Because they are in a hyper-competitive world, no matter what segment or vertical they're part of. And so productivity always comes into forefront. Two is, with the advent of everything being connected and everything being hyper-connected, printing machines, cameras, et cetera, the world of things, or IoT, or Internet of Everything, as some would refer to, is proliferating the need for increased visibility for our customers. Oftentimes, I would go to a customer and say, how many devices do you think are connecting to your network at any point in time? And let's say they say 2,000. We run a visibility software that we have in a customer's enterprise. And the first aha that goes on for them is, within a matter of a week or two, we show them all the devices that are connecting to them and categorizing them. And oftentimes they're off by a factor of 3 or 5, meaning that if they thought they had 2,000 devices, they may end up actually having 10,000 devices trying to connect to their network. That itself creates a certain challenge for them from a visibility standpoint. Our obligation then as a vendor is to give them comfort that we will help you improve your visibility and do so simply such that you can manage your policies better. So that becomes an increasingly important element of our discussions. And then last but not least, because they are moving their infrastructure, be it for economic reasons or user demands, into multiple clouds, etc., compliance becomes a very important element as well. Obviously, coming from the UK, you are familiar with GDPR and other standards of privacy, but that there are variations of that that are being used across the world, derived from GDPR in some ways, and other data governance techniques, where it's important to ensure that data is protected, data is preserved in the locations that customer enterprise needs dictate, etc. So compliance becomes an important element as well. The way I would describe it is, at a broad level, all three matter to pretty much every customer we talk to, but some matter more than others. So for instance, in a regulated industry, compliance seems to matter a little bit more than visibility, because they can actually control what devices are deployed in their enterprise. Whereas in a financial institution, for instance, increasingly we see the need for productivity, the need for mobility, but obviously secure productivity becoming more and more important as well. So the themes cut across all of them, but the relative significance of it keeps changing from one industry to another.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Internet of Things there, because we've talked about visibility, productivity, and compliance. But what about the Internet of Everything? Because I see 5G on the horizon, and that's obviously going to cause, bring even more IoT sensors online. So where does IoT security come into place with secure access? It sounds like an incredibly exciting time for you guys.
It definitely is an exciting time for us. As I previously mentioned, Neil, our mission, which I think bears repeating, is to deliver secure access solutions for people, obviously like you and I, devices, let's call it like a mobile phone, things, which would be Internet of Things, and services, which are applications. So we've built a comprehensive architecture to support all of these types of variations, because it is imperative, in our opinion, to be able to do that for our customers, because their needs will demand and dictate that we do so. And to the degree that we are able to do it in a unified fashion, we are adding value to our customers. Now, coming to Internet of Things, it is a very intricate environment to build into, because there is a huge euphoria of different types of connected devices. But unfortunately, a lot of these devices do not start with security in mind. In other words, they're not secured by design, as I like to call it. And so to that degree, what we are responsible to do first and foremost is to profile them, meaning that we have to be able to help customers understand what is even intending to connect to their networks, which is the first area of focus, which is what we call visibility, by saying, if I'm able to tell you what is attempting to connect and what we believe it to be, then using policies that you define, we can provide or restrict access, or provide access in ways that make your entire environment and keep your entire environment secure. So oftentimes, as I mentioned earlier, we go into a customer environment, we find more devices than they think they have. But that's a first step in securing their network, because we are able to profile it for them. We then are able to, leveraging our policy secure solutions, give them the right levels of access. So for instance, just to give you a basic example, if I have an IP camera as an example, connecting to my network, and I provide access to it, when and if it tries to attach itself to a network that has the financial databases of the enterprise, I should be able to detect it proactively and take action that is specified by the administrator proactively, rather than letting bad things happen and let the customer discover those after the fact. So those are the types of things that we bring to the table from a visibility standpoint, especially in the IoT context. And IoT visibility is becoming more and more significant. Another customer of ours, an increasing number of customers of ours, have essentially been monitoring smart meters using our technology that then allows us to give them better ways of energy profiling, driving better energy efficiencies, etc. So I'm really thrilled about it, because what it allows us to do from a secure access standpoint is really make meaningful impact to our customers and the lives of the people that leverage their solutions, as opposed to simply being a vendor that sells software to customers. So there's a big purpose that we serve as well in doing that.
And looking towards the future, there is just so many emerging technologies that are gaining ground now and beginning to converge as well, whether that be AI, machine learning, blockchain, IoT, and 5G. And it's when all those begin to converge, the great possibilities that we're going to start seeing. But what does the future hold for Pulse? Is there anything you can share with me about the future then?
Absolutely, Neil. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm super excited about the future of Pulse. Our goal at one level is simple and exciting, and that is to accelerate our secure access mission. Customers increasingly are looking for hybrid IT environments and multi-cloud environments. They want superior user experiences such that their end users have simplicity of access as well as experience better productivity. And we spoke about IoT and how that whole world is rapidly evolving with the advent of 5G and hyperconnectivity. And we are at the intersection of all of those. And our job is to accelerate our secure access mission and ultimately be the best provider of solutions to enable customers to enjoy superior productivity, complete visibility, and best-in-class compliance.
Well, a huge thank you for joining me on the show today. But before I do let you go, could I just ask that you remind everyone listening where they can find Pulse online and how they can reach out to your team and ask any questions if they have anything else?
Absolutely. And thanks again, Neil. Pulse can be reached at www.PulseSecure.net. And we are on standby to serve the needs of anybody that wants to deploy the best-in-class secure access solutions.
Well, I think we just scratched the surface there on workforce mobility, cloud, and hyperconvergence. But I'd love to get you back on later in the year and find how these trends are continuing to evolve as well. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
I'd love to do that, Neil. And maybe you and I can talk more specifics about customers and trends and how they are using and deploying the technologies and enjoying the benefits of it as well.
So a big thank you to Sudhakur for coming on the show today and speaking about a variety of security trends that should be impacting the tech industry here in 2020. Like I said at the beginning of the show, like bring your own device and trends around that and what it's having on security in the enterprise and hybrid IT, zero trust, and so much more. But over to you. What did we miss today? What would you like to add to the conversation? Remember, it's your show too, and every viewpoint is valid. So please, I invite you all to email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and you can pop by my website if you want to find out more about the 1100 episodes that we've recorded by simply going to techblogwriter.co.uk. And that's the end of another episode, I'm afraid, but have no fear, I am returning bright and early tomorrow with another episode. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.